My dearest, there exists a singular phrase, and when a man directs it toward you, it possesses the power to completely revolutionize the dynamic between the two of you. It can alter his entire perception of who you are, transform the level of his investment, and reshape the trajectory of the connection. By the conclusion of this discussion, I will unveil precisely what that sentence is and explain why it carries such immense emotional gravity. But before we arrive at that reveal, you must comprehend a fundamental principle, one that, once fully absorbed, will permanently upgrade the way you approach relationships. I am not here to coat reality in sugar. At this specific chapter of your life, the unvarnished truth holds far more value than temporary comfort. And the cold, hard reality is this. If a man demonstrates curiosity about you, but fails to decisively select you, then you simply must not select him either. It truly is that uncomplicated. Cling tightly to that realization. This stance is not born from bitterness. It is not rooted in fear. This is the absolute definition of emotional intelligence. Far too many women mistake potential for actual intention. They fixate on the fantasy of what could be rather than acknowledging the reality of what is. They pour their resources into possibilities while turning a blind eye to the established patterns. And the tax on that error is invariably paid in lost time, depleted energy, and fractured self-worth. If you remain with me for just a few more minutes, you will not only discover exactly what men say when their interest is genuine, but you will also learn to discern, in real time, whether you are being cherished as a priority or merely utilized as an option. And if anything I say resonates with you even slightly, I want you to comment where you're watching from. Mexico, Colombia, Spain, anywhere in the world where women are finally done settling for emotional leftovers. Share this with someone you love, because what we're talking about today isn't just advice. It's reclamation. After decades of listening to people's stories, their heartbreaks, their hopes, one pattern has become painfully clear. Women are incredibly intelligent, strategic, perceptive. But when emotions enter the picture, particularly romantic attraction, that intelligence often gets overridden. And the reason is something psychologists call confirmation bias. When you like a man, your mind starts searching for evidence that he likes you back. Not objective evidence, emotional evidence. A late-night text suddenly feels intimate. A vague promise feels like a future plan. A fleeting moment of attention feels meaningful. My love, that is not intuition. That is self-deception dressed up as hope. I'm not telling you this to shame you. I'm telling you this to free you. Because healthy relationships do not require guesswork. A man who is genuinely interested does not confuse you. He does not keep you waiting indefinitely. He does not disappear and reappear when it suits him. A man who truly wants you is consistent, clear, emotionally present. He makes you feel chosen, not tolerated. And this isn't just emotional advice. It's biological. When a man is emotionally invested, his brain releases oxytocin, dopamine, serotonin, chemicals that naturally motivate him to pursue, to bond, to invest. He doesn't need reminders. He is not genuinely interested. He may be bored. He may enjoy the validation. He may like the convenience. But he is not choosing you. And you deserve more than to be someone's distraction. That doesn't mean you become cold, distant, or passive. This is not about playing games. This is about choosing yourself first. When you stand differently, you speak differently, and confidence is the strongest form of attraction there is. A man can feel when a woman knows her worth. He can sense when she has standards, when she is grounded, when she is not seeking approval. And that presence is powerful. I've seen it countless times. A woman comes devastated, questioning herself, replaying every message, every interaction, wondering what she did wrong. And eventually, she stops chasing. She redirects her focus back to her own life, her goals, her peace. And often that same man comes back. But by then, something has changed. She no longer wants him because she has remembered who she is. That is real transformation. It's not about getting someone to choose you. It's about becoming the woman who only accepts men who rise to her level. And once you reach that point, everything changes. So, let's get practical. Because understanding this intellectually is one thing, recognizing it in real life is another. When a man is genuinely interested, one of the first signs is how he speaks about the future. Not grand promises, not fantasy, but inclusion. He naturally places you into upcoming moments. He says things like, "when we go," or "I want you to meet," or "next time, we should." These aren't accidents. They signal intention. Men who are unsure stay vague. They live in "we'll see" and "maybe later." A man who takes you seriously does not keep you suspended in uncertainty. Another clear sign is curiosity. A man who is genuinely interested asks real questions. He wants to know your story, your values, your fears, what excites you, what frustrates you, and more importantly, he remembers. He remembers what matters to you. He follows up. He checks in. Anyone can ask questions. Only someone who cares stores the answers. But the truth is simpler. When a man cares, he communicates. Not perfectly, not poetically, but clearly. He lets you know he enjoys you, that he values your presence, that you matter. He does not leave you emotionally guessing for months. Ambiguity is not depth, it's avoidance. When a man is serious, he also integrates you into his world. He introduces you to friends. He includes you in social spaces. He doesn't hide you. Men seek validation from their environment for what matters to them. If you remain a secret indefinitely, believe the pattern, not the excuse. Intensity at the beginning can be intoxicating. Constant texting, rapid attachment, emotional fireworks. But intensity is not commitment. Many men fall in love with the feeling, not the person. When the chemical high fades, so does their interest. A mature man builds steadily. He is consistent, not overwhelming. He is reliable, not dramatic. And here is something crucial. Watch how a man treats you when he no longer has to impress you. When the chase is over, that is who he truly is. Respect, care, and consistency after the initial excitement are what matter, not grand gestures at the beginning. Respect shows itself in actions. He listens. He values your time. He honors boundaries. He protects your dignity. Respect is not negotiated, it is demonstrated. And boundaries only work when they are enforced. Saying you deserve respect, while tolerating disrespect, teaches others how to treat you. It is far more painful to stay where you are not valued than to leave what feels familiar. Staying erodes you slowly. Leaving hurts sharply, but briefly. And on the other side of that pain is peace. And now as we continue, we'll move closer to the sentence that reveals genuine emotional investment. But before we do, understand this. Words matter only when behavior aligns. Beautiful phrases without consistent action are nothing more than emotional decoration. True interest is not what he says once, it's what he does repeatedly. And that understanding is where real clarity begins. Because anyone can deliver a beautiful sentence at the right emotional moment. But genuine interest reveals itself in repetition, in steadiness, in what a man does when there is no immediate reward. And this is where many women get trapped. They fall in love with potential, with moments, with words spoken during vulnerability, and they ignore the everyday behavior, that tells the real story. So let's go deeper into what actually distinguishes a man who is emotionally invested from one who is simply enjoying access. When a man is genuinely interested, he does not make you feel anxious about where you stand. You don't wake up wondering if today he will be warm or distant. You don't feel like you're walking on eggshells, afraid to say the wrong thing and scare him away. Emotional safety is not boring. It is not dull. It is what allows attraction to deepen instead of exhausting you. A man who truly wants you creates predictability, not confusion. He shows up when he says he will. He follows through. He doesn't punish you with silence. He doesn't disappear after intimacy. He doesn't keep you in a cycle of highs and lows that leaves you addicted to crumbs of attention. If you feel emotionally dysregulated around him, constantly overthinking, constantly adjusting yourself, that is not chemistry. That is your nervous system responding to inconsistency. And this is important to understand. Your body knows before your mind does. If you feel uneasy, restless, or insecure around a man, your intuition is trying to tell you something. Not every intense connection is healthy. Some are simply familiar patterns repeating themselves. Attraction without safety is not love. It's attachment. When a man is genuinely interested, he also takes responsibility for his role in the connection. He claims his place. Men who want something real don't hover. They ain't silent. A lack of effort is an answer. If a man wanted to, he would, is not a harsh statement. It's a clarifying one. Men move mountains for what matters to them, not perfect. And hear that if people value what they risk losing. And if you make it clear through your actions that you will stay no matter how little he gives, you remove all incentive for him to grow. This is not about ultimatums. It's about self-respect. Clarity is not pressure. Saying what you want is not demanding. A woman who knows herself does not fear honesty, because she is not trying to convince anyone to choose her. She is observing whether he can meet her where she stands. Let's talk about emotional availability. A man who is emotionally available does not avoid conversations about feelings, direction, or intentions. He may not articulate everything perfectly, but he does not shut down, deflect, or mock emotional depth. He doesn't make you feel needy for wanting clarity. He understands that clarity creates safety, and safety deepens connection. Men who are unavailable often hide behind charm, humor, or busyness. They keep things light. They avoid depth. They change the subject when things become real. And they often say things like, "Let's not overthink this," or "Let's just see where things go." What they really mean is, "I want the benefits without the responsibility." And here's the part many women don't want to hear. If a man is unsure about you for an extended period of time, that uncertainty is your answer. Interest grows with exposure. Clarity increases with time. Confusion that lingers is not confusion. It's hesitation. And hesitation means he is not fully choosing you. Now, let's talk about one of the most misunderstood dynamics in dating. Effort. Effort is not grand gestures. It's not money spent or dramatic declarations. Effort is presence. Effort is consistency. Effort is prioritizing you, even when it's inconvenient. Effort is making space for you and his life, instead of squeezing you into the margins. When a man is genuinely interested, you don't have to compete with his phone, his friends, his hobbies, or his past. You are not fighting for attention. You are integrated naturally. He doesn't make you feel like an interruption. He makes you feel like a choice. And let's be very clear about something. You do not earn commitment by overgiving. You do not secure love by being endlessly patient, endlessly understanding, endlessly available. Love grows in mutuality. When you give too much to someone who gives little, you don't create closeness. You create imbalance. And imbalance always leads to resentment. A healthy connection feels reciprocal. You reach, he reaches. You invest, he invests. You express, he responds. If you are always the one initiating emotional depth, something is off. If you are always the one repairing, clarifying, smoothing things over, something is off. Relationships are not meant to feel like emotional labor camps. And now, let's address something subtle but powerful. How a man responds when you express a boundary. This tells you everything. A man who respects you may not always like your boundary, but he will honor it. He won't argue you out of it. He won't punish you for it. He won't test it repeatedly. He understands that boundaries are not rejection. They are self-definition. A man who reacts with anger, withdrawal, or manipulation when you assert a boundary is telling you who he is. And believing him the first time is an act of self-love. Now, as we move closer to the sentence I promised you, you need to understand the emotional context behind it. Men do not easily verbalize vulnerability. Many are conditioned to suppress it. So when a man expresses something that reveals emotional impact, growth, or inner change, it matters. But only when it is supported by behavior. Words are not the proof. They are the signal. The proof is what follows. And before that sentence is spoken, there is usually a shift. He becomes more present, more intentional. He listens differently. He seeks your perspective. He values your opinion. He doesn't just enjoy you. He respects you. And that shift is not accidental. It means you are no longer just someone he is attracted to. You are someone who affects him. And that distinction changes everything. Because affecting a man is very different from entertaining him. Many women can excite a man. Few truly influence him. An influence does not come from trying harder, giving more, or proving your worth. It comes from presence, from character, from the quiet authority of a woman who knows herself. When a man begins to feel affected by you, something shifts inside him. He becomes more thoughtful, more self-aware. He starts reflecting on his behavior, his choices, his direction. And this is important to understand. Men do not grow emotionally because someone pushes them. They grow because something inside them is activated. And that activation often comes from being seen, respected, and challenged by the right woman. This is why certain women stay in a man's mind long after the connection ends. Not because of what they did for him, but because of how they made him see himself. A woman who embodies self-respect becomes a mirror. She reflects a man back to himself, his strengths, his weaknesses, his potential. And that is confronting. That is powerful. Now, let's talk about the sentence I promised you. But we need to approach it carefully, because many women hear words and immediately attach meaning without observing context. This sentence is not magic. It is not a guarantee. It is a signal. And like all signals, it must be interpreted alongside behavior. When a man says, "You make me want to be a better man," and he says it sincerely, something significant is happening. He is admitting that your presence has disrupted his comfort zone. That being with you highlights parts of himself he wants to improve. Men do not say this casually. They do not say it to women they see as temporary. They say it when they feel inspired, challenged, and emotionally impacted. This sentence is not about you fixing him. It is not about you saving him, and it is not an invitation to take responsibility for his growth. That is where many women go wrong. They hear this sentence and think, "He needs me." No, he is saying, "You influence me." That is very different. A healthy man takes responsibility for becoming better because he wants to. An unhealthy man says this sentence to keep you emotionally invested while doing nothing to change. That's why you must watch what happens after the words are spoken. Does he take more responsibility? Does he become more consistent? Does he align his actions with his intentions? Or does he stay the same while enjoying the emotional bond? This distinction matters. Another phrase that carries weight is, "I trust you." Trust is not given lightly by men. For many, trust is more difficult than love. Love can be felt quickly. Trust is built slowly. When a man tells you he trusts you, he is opening a door into vulnerability. He is saying you feel safe, that you are not a threat to his emotional world. But again, trust must be mutual, and it must be honored. A man who says he trusts you, but continues to lie, hide, or act inconsistently, is not trustworthy himself. Words are invitations. Actions are confirmations. There is also a sentence many women long to hear. "I've never met anyone like you." This can be meaningful or meaningless, depending on timing. If it's said early, without depth, without knowing you, it's often a line. If it's said after shared experiences, conflict, time, and emotional exposure, it means you have disrupted his patterns. You don't fit neatly into his expectations. You've made an impression. Men often operate from internal templates, ideas of what a partner should be. When you break that template by being fully yourself, you stand out. Authenticity is disruptive in the best way. But hear this clearly. None of these sentences matter if they are not followed by integration. Integration is when a man brings you into his real life, not just his private moments, not just his downtime, his life, his plans, his world. If he keeps you compartmentalized, if you exist only in certain spaces but not others, you are not fully chosen. And this is where many women get stuck. They receive emotional intimacy without structural commitment, deep conversations without direction, vulnerability without responsibility. And it feels meaningful, but it goes nowhere. Emotional intimacy without clarity is one of the most painful traps because it creates bonding without security. You deserve both. Now, let's talk about timelines. Not rigid deadlines, but internal clarity. You do not owe anyone unlimited access to your time while they decide if you are enough. Wanting clarity does not make you anxious. It makes you self-respecting. A woman who knows what she wants does not apologize for it. She communicates it calmly, clearly, and without fear of loss. And here's the truth many avoid. A man who wants to build something with you does not feel pressured by your clarity. He feels relieved. Only men who benefit from ambiguity fear it. If a man says he doesn't know what he wants after months or years, believe him. He knows. He just doesn't want to say it out loud because he enjoys what you provide. Companionship, emotional support, comfort. But he is not offering you a future. Staying in that situation slowly teaches you to accept less than you deserve. It trains you to doubt your instincts, to shrink your needs, to silence your desires. And that erosion is dangerous. Let's shift now to you. Because the goal is not to analyze men endlessly. The goal is to become so grounded in yourself that you no longer tolerate uncertainty as a lifestyle. A woman with strong self-worth does not rush emotional attachment. She observes. She listens. She watches patterns. She does not project fantasies onto inconsistent behavior. She allows people to reveal themselves. Self-worth is not arrogance. It is quiet confidence. It is knowing that you are enough whether someone chooses you or not. And from that place, you stop chasing. Not because you're playing hard to get, but because you are genuinely fulfilled. A woman who has a full life does not cling. She has friends, passions, goals, purpose. A man becomes an addition, not a rescue. And this changes everything. Men are drawn to women who choose them, not need them. This is where attraction shifts from fragile to magnetic. Communication also changes. Instead of hinting, hoping, or resenting, you speak clearly. You say what you feel. You express needs without blame. You listen without overfunctioning. You don't suppress yourself to keep the peace. And when something doesn't align, you don't argue endlessly. You observe. You decide. You move accordingly. Independence is not emotional distance. It is self-possession. You do not abandon your life to fit into his. You do not dim yourself to be digestible. You remain yourself. And here's something essential. Stop chasing. If you are always the one initiating, maintaining, repairing, you are doing too much. A healthy connection has balance. If you step back and everything collapses, that was never a relationship. It was effort on one side. Stepping back is not manipulation. It is clarity. And in that space, you see the truth. Either he steps forward, or he fades. Both are answers. And when you stop chasing, something profound happens. You reclaim your energy. You stop pouring into emptiness. You make room for reciprocity. Attracting is not effortful. It is natural when you are aligned with yourself. Chasing is exhausting because it comes from fear. Ask yourself honestly, are you choosing or are you clinging? Choosing is freedom. Clinging is fear. And no lasting love grows from fear. Because fear-based attachment always demands proof, reassurance, and constant validation. It keeps you watching, waiting, hoping, interpreting. Love rooted in freedom feels entirely different. It feels calm. It feels grounded. It doesn't steal your peace. And this is one of the clearest indicators that you are in the presence of something real. A woman who has returned to herself no longer measures her worth by a man's attention. She doesn't overanalyze response times or read meaning into silence. She understands that interest is visible, that effort is obvious. That consistency speaks louder than any confession. And because she knows this, she no longer negotiates with uncertainty. This is where many women experience resistance. Letting go of the chase can feel like loss. But what you are actually losing is illusion. You are releasing fantasy, not reality. And while that hurts at first, what follows is clarity. And clarity is power. Let's speak honestly about red flags. Because awareness without action is self-betrayal. If a man is controlling, jealous, or constantly monitoring you under the disguise of care, that is not love. If he isolates you from friends, criticizes your growth, or diminishes your confidence, that is not protection. That is possession. And possession is the root of emotional abuse. If you find yourself apologizing for things you didn't do, questioning your memory, doubting your perceptions, or feeling like you are always at fault, you may be experiencing gaslighting. This slowly erodes your sense of self. Love should not make you feel small, confused, or invisible. Recognizing these patterns early is not pessimism. It is self-preservation. You cannot heal someone who does not want to heal themselves. And love is not proven by how much pain you endure. Love is reflected in mutual care, safety, and respect. Leaving an unhealthy dynamic is not failure. It is courage. Now, let's return to standards. Standards are not walls. They are filters. They exist to protect your emotional well-being and guide your choices. A woman with standards is not difficult. She is discerning. She knows that compatibility matters more than chemistry alone. That character matters more than charm. Having standards does not mean no one will choose you. It means only the right people will, and that is a blessing. At the core of all of this is one essential truth. You do not need to prove your worth. You need to believe it. When you truly believe it, your behavior changes. You stop explaining yourself excessively. You stop tolerating disrespect. You stop shrinking to maintain connection. You also stop being afraid of loss, because you understand that losing someone who cannot meet you with respect and clarity is not loss. It is alignment. This is where the final shift occurs. You stop asking, Will he choose me? And you begin asking, do I choose him? You evaluate how he treats you, how you feel in his presence, whether the connection supports your growth or drains your energy. This question restores your power. When you choose yourself, something remarkable happens. People who benefit from your self-doubt fade away, and people who value your confidence step forward. You no longer attract from lack. You attract from wholeness. This is not about control or superiority. It is about equality. Two people standing on solid ground, choosing each other freely. No chasing, no guessing, no emotional bargaining. Love is not meant to be a battlefield. It is meant to be a meeting place. A place where two people see each other clearly and decide, without fear, to walk together. And when you reach this place, you don't cling, you don't beg, you don't wait to be chosen. You choose, you decide. You move forward with clarity and grace. That is freedom. And that is where real love begins. Because when you arrive at freedom, you stop confusing intensity with intimacy. You stop mistaking longing for love. You stop believing that struggle is a requirement for connection. And from that place, everything you once tolerated begins to feel unacceptable. This is the quiet revolution that happens inside a woman. When she finally understands her worth, she no longer waits to be chosen. She observes, she evaluates, she decides. And that decision comes not from fear of being alone, but from respect for herself. At this stage, your standards are no longer theoretical. They are embodied. You don't announce them dramatically. You live them. You walk away when something doesn't align. You no longer argue people into treating you well. You understand that how someone treats you is information, not a challenge. This is where love becomes simple. Not easy, but simple. You are no longer decoding mixed signals because there are none. You are no longer guessing where you stand because you feel secure in your place. You are no longer anxious because consistency regulates your nervous system. Peace becomes your new baseline. And let me say this clearly. Peace is not the absence of passion. Peace is the presence of safety. Real attraction does not create chaos. It deepens when you feel emotionally safe. The right man does not make you doubt yourself. He does not keep you in suspense. He does not make you feel like you have to earn his affection. He meets you fully, consciously, willingly. When a man is right for you, you don't feel like you're auditioning. You feel like you're being received. You don't perform. You exist. You don't chase. You respond. You don't lose yourself. You expand. This is the difference between a connection that consumes you and one that supports you. Now, let's bring everything together. The sentence we spoke about earlier, "You make me want to be a better man," is meaningful not because it flatters you, but because it reveals impact. It shows that your presence has stirred something real. But the truth is this: the most powerful sentence is not what he says to you. It's what you say to yourself. I will not settle. I will not abandon myself. I will not stay where I am not chosen. When those sentences become non-negotiable inside you, the quality of your relationships changes automatically. Not because you demand more, but because you accept less. You stop attracting men who hover. You stop entertaining men who are unsure. You stop investing in men who benefit from ambiguity. And you start meeting men who are clear, grounded, present. Men who don't fear commitment because they know who they are and what they want. This is not about age. It's not about luck. It's not about timing. It's about alignment. You don't need to be perfect to be loved. You need to be self-respecting. You don't need to be extraordinary to be chosen. You need to be authentic. You don't need to convince anyone of your value. You need to stop doubting yourself. And here is the final truth I want to leave you with. True affection is not a wage you collect by suffering through hardship. It is a phenomenon that occurs only when two souls encounter one another in absolute honesty. It happens when both parties are willing, when both are fully present, and when both are actively making the choice. If an individual is ambivalent about your value, allow them to wrestle with that uncertainty in your absence. If a person wavers on the concept of commitment, let them waver without consuming another second of your life. If they are incapable of meeting you with absolute clarity, release them without a shred of guilt. You are not too much to handle. You are not demanding the impossible. You are merely directing your requests to the wrong audience. The moment you prioritize your own well-being, you do not forfeit love. You purify it. You raise it to a higher standard. You clear the path for a connection that refuses to exhaust you, bewilder you, or make you feel small. And when that caliber of love finally lands, it will not feel like an interrogation. It will feel like a homecoming. You will cease asking, "Does he desire me?" Instead, you will ask, "Does this vibration align with my true self?" And from that vantage point, you will never again settle for scraps when you are worthy of the entire banquet. That, my dear friend, is not merely relationship guidance. That is the definition of freedom.